Okay. Can you guys see and hear me? Are we having technical difficulties or are we good? Yes, yes. Good? Yay. Okay. I can't see how many people are in here. Should I see if I need to do my light? Let's see if it makes it better or worse. I think it makes it better. I think the light's good. How many people do we have? Probably just a couple, so we'll wait a bit. I was thinking today, hi. I was thinking today we should talk about the Nigeria thing. Hello, hello. Oh, Robin on TikTok. Hi, welcome. The Juicious, cool. Hi, first time chat, Willow the Doll as well. Hello, good morning. Hi, hi, hi. And Aaron Hoff, cool. Yay. Welcome, everybody. So my picture's looking like Miley Cyrus. You know what? Miley Cyrus actually once bought a bunch of stuff from Tunnel Vision forever ago. Randomly, some celebrities have. Halsey used to wear Tunnel Vision. One time I was really, really, really broke years ago, and I didn't think I was going to be able to afford pay my rent, and I was having like a panic attack, and Frances Bean Cobain placed a $3,000 order. Like while I was like, oh, I can't sleep, I'm not going to be able to pay rent, what's going to happen to me? And then she placed a $3,000 order, and I was like, ah. Yeah, that was a while ago. That was like 12 years ago, 10 years ago, or something like that. Oh, Nicki Minaj. I saw she deleted her Instagram, right? Tunnel Vision's my job. So I'm a clothing designer. That's my actual job. I'm not a professional content creator. And it's a worker collective, basically, that I started 14 years ago. I didn't start out as a worker collective. We tried some other things that didn't work, and then we just kind of ended up on this model eventually, and it's better. But yeah, it's a small business. We do clothing and accessory designs. We're also having a sale right now. So if you want to check it out, it's 40% off everything through the end of the year. We always do that at the end of the year because it gives us a chance to kind of relax, and orders can come in without us needing to stress as much. What inspired me to start Tunnel Vision, I was having a really hard time finding a job. The light kind of reflects in these bad, so maybe I'll take my glasses off. Yeah, I was having a really hard time finding a job, and I was really stressed about money, and I was like, I know how to sew. I went to school for clothing design, apparel design. I was freelancing a lot, so I just started it with a friend who also was afraid she was going to lose her job, and then we both lost our jobs, so it's a good thing we did it. The website is shoptunnelvision.com. That's what it is. So, hello, hello, first time chat. Pahama Mouse and Ground Cinnamon. Cute. Yay, 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 yay. Yeah, I went to trade school basically for apparel design. So I have a BFA in apparel design, and with a focus in manufacturing and marketing as well. Yeah. If my job weren't Tunnel Vision, I used to work basically as executive administrative assistant, but now I think I would try to be a bartender. Is what I think I would try to do. Oh my god, it's Mao's birthday? Oh my god, happy birthday, Chairman Mao. Wow. Wow. You're a programmer. Oh, and Chilean thrift stores. Cool. That's rad. I love that. I feel like it's natural, like to return to the clothing cycle. No, I did not see Ukraine's social media post celebrating the fall of the USSR, but that's wild. Mercy Fool, welcome. Hello, first chat. Magdalene. That's actually wild, though, because you guys know the history. I talk about this all the time. Ukraine, 80% of Ukrainians. Maybe we can actually start with this. Maybe I'll do a little screen share, and we'll get into it. Let's see. I have a Finder thing I can close. We can actually look into this 1991 USSR referendum results, and we'll look at images. Okay. This is the image I like. It's just hosted on Reddit, but it's not like created by Reddit, so nobody shoot me. Let's see. So here, this is the results. Somebody posted this just on Reddit, but you can find this other places. These are the results of the referendum on the preservation of the USSR, how many people in each place voted to keep the USSR. And you can see Ukraine, 83.5% of Ukrainians voted to keep the USSR right here. And the average for the total is 76.4%. So Ukraine had a higher than average rate of people wanting to preserve the USSR. And then famously, it was Ukrainians who tried to kill the leaders of the USSR when they were corrupt and they disbanded it anyway. So, you shouldn't be. Yes. Oh, Taiwanese bots. Is that, you were in my Instagram chat talking about that, right? The Taiwanese bots. It's pretty wild. Nationalists in general are vile. Nationalists in general are bad people. Shocking to no one. We know in the United States what our nationalists are like. Our United States nationalists, like, yay, pro USA, whatever. They're it's not a good ideology. Yeah, so everywhere they're bad, it turns out. This is Laura, bro. I get this. You like Trotsky, but Trotskyism is messy theory. But he is a funny little guy. Yeah, he had some takes. He had some good takes. The Forever Revolution. I mean, I will give him credit. It is technically orthodox Marxism. It just, in practice was bad. You do like the nationalism of the DPRK. Okay, so this is my take on, like, nationalism when it's backed with, like, communism, right? That's not, like, your guiding ideology. That's just, like, national pride. And I do think people who have been victims of imperialism, imperialist aggression, colonization, they have a different form of nationalism, right? They are banding together. They're identifying us versus them in order to band together to fight off their oppressors. I think that can be a good gateway or transition kind of thing. And this is something we fight about on my podcast a lot. Nationalism does not equal patriotism. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Is it worth leaving the U.S. for somewhere like China or Sweden or something? Everybody I've seen who left the United States and moved to China has said good things, but that could also be the bias of my For You page. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, Kim Il-sung was a great writer. Very accessible. I love his writing style. Totally. I'd want to live in China too. So hello, happy Boxing Day. How many people are in the chat right now or in the stream? I can't see. Can anybody tell me? 90. Should we start or should we wait for a few to see if more people come? It's kind of like a weird day. So maybe not a lot of people are going to be on stream. You know what I mean? We'll just start. Okay, we'll just start. All right. So today, do you guys want to talk about Nigeria? That's the biggest thing in the news. Let's look at Politico because they don't have a paywall, and we'll look at what's in the normie news. The normie news. 4 ways China-U.S. relations could fracture in 2026. I'm interested. Okay, Zelensky to meet with Trump. Here we go. ISIS in Nigeria. Hello Kitty Comrade 420. Hi. Oh, we got a new subscriber too, Radio Rebel. Yay. Normie news. Yeah, we're on the normie news. I like Politico for the normie news. I also like Responsible Statecraft. Oh, I wonder if Responsible Statecraft has anything. That's like, they're kind of like right wing actually, but they're the kind of right wing that's like maybe more libertarian, where they're like, why are we spending all this money on wars? Ah! And I'm like, well, we overlap in that, So let's see if they have anything about Nigeria. Why Russians haven't risen up to stop the Ukraine war. That's interesting. Taiwan shouldn't become the thorn we use to provoke China. That's interesting to me as well. Trump's national security logic, rare earths, and fossil fuels. I feel like this could actually be an interesting kind of base for everything we're talking about with Nigeria as well. Okay. So, what do you guys think? Should we start with this Nigeria situation, or should we start with 4 ways China-U.S. relations could fracture in 2026? I like The Guardian for normie news too. They sometimes will do straight up propaganda. Like they'll be like, we're doing like a crossover with this like total paid government NGO, which is funny, but they always disclose it. They're always like, that's what's happening here. And I'm like, okay, I respect that. Can I run a poll? Is there a way to do a poll for you guys? I don't know how. Oh, to your wedding GoFundMe? You're getting married for Go? That's so fun. You should share it here, and people can donate if they want. I love. Yes, next month. Oh my God. Yay. Congrats. Share the GoFundMe link here in case anybody else wants to donate. Yeah, do it. That's so exciting. Yay. I'm going to copy it and paste another thing for me to do when I'm done. Unfortunately, I am not rich like everybody thinks I am. But maybe I can have a little bit. Okay, so what was our vote? Nigeria won with two. What? China, Nigeria, China, Nigeria. I think Nigeria kind of won. Okay, yeah. So everybody check out Virgo's GoFundMe, please. Yeah, it's very chill in here. We don't have a lot of people in here. It's pretty chill. So, we'll start with Nigeria. So, some things you need to know about Nigeria is that Nigeria is it's a big country in Africa, right? It's like the most populous country in Africa, I think. And there's about an equal split of people who are Christian there and people who are Muslim there. And, surprise, surprise, they have access to a lot of rare earth minerals that we want. And they're also like a strategic location for the United States. So, the United States, when we engage in military action in Africa, it's under something called AFRICOM, Africa Command, which is part of our military. And we're super involved in Africa. We're all over the place in Africa. We're up to some bad shit there. So yeah, basically our interests in Nigeria are the same as they are everywhere: rare earth minerals, strategic military outpost, kind of a thing. So Republicans have recently started claiming that there is some sort of genocide of Christians going on, and that's kind of supposedly the basis. Like ISIS is in Nigeria murdering Christians. There's a genocide of Christians going on, and this is some major problem that we need to intervene and help immediately. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Trump's national security logic, rare earths and fossil fuels. I want to read this first because I think this is relevant to everything Donald Trump does in terms of foreign policy, but it's probably going to be relevant to Nigeria as well. Yeah, I wonder who funded ISIS in the first place. More Muslims have died than Christians. There is a problem, but it's not a Christian genocide. That is correct. Ding, 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 ding. It is not a Christian genocide. So, the new national security strategy of the United States seeks strategic stability with Russia. It declares that China is merely a competitor, that the Middle East is not central to American security, that Latin America is our hemisphere, and that Europe faces civilizational erasure. I think this is what I mean when I'm like responsible statecraft. They're pretty conservative, but I think this is an accurate assessment of our foreign policy. Strategic stability with Russia. Very obviously, that's what we see right now. That peace deal we're negotiating with Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine loses all across the board. Ukraine loses. It was very, very fucked up and manipulative of us, what we've done to Ukraine. Then we also have China, merely competitor. Yeah, no shit. If we went to war with China, they would wipe us off the face of the map. That's just called not being a ding dong. The Middle East is not central to American security. That is true. George W. Bush did famously not have success in trying to destroy all of the Middle East. That Latin America is our hemisphere. That's why we are trying to steal Venezuela. And that Europe faces civilizational erasure. This I do not have a reference point for, but I am interested to learn more. I'll hear Chairman Fork. Fork is still asleep. I need to wake her up. So, India, the world's largest country by population, barely rates a mention. One might say, as Neville Chamberlain did of Czechoslovakia in 1938, it's a faraway country of which we know nothing. Well, so much the better for India, which can take care of itself. This is what I mean. They lean libertarian, so they're not so into imperialism, which means their takes on foreign policy are funny to me. Stretch. Okay, I'll stretch. Yes, I will stretch. Am I on at the same time as Hassan? Is that why this happens? Okay. Yeah, I think it's referring to the immigration. Yes. Yeah. So, let's see. The realpolitik of this document is breathtaking. And realpolitik is a Henry Kissinger kind of thing, which is just like, look, the world is the way it is, and our goal is to not disrupt it so much so business can continue to function, basically. Oh, I just subscribed. Yay. What did you guys subscribe to? What are you guys talking about? I think I saw you guys were talking about somebody else, right? I didn't think it was me. What did we do? We did something. I got an alert that we did something. 10 out of 10 subscribers? Oh my God. He goes live in 20 minutes. Okay, got it. Yay. Okay, cool. Basically fear-mongering. Yes, I think so. Okay, the DPRK has an insanely cool social insurance system. We'll look into that. No, you subscribed to me. Oh, okay, yay. Yeah, thank you. Yay. Cool, cool. Yay, thank you, everyone. So, The realpolitik of this document is breathtaking, yet the underlying logic is not stated. Indeed, as a statement of political ideology or values, the strategy is incoherent. It declares respect for the sovereignty of countries whose governing systems differ from ours, but then berates Europe for anti-democratic practices. Spoiler alert, though, it actually declares respect for the sovereignty of countries who could wipe us off the face of the planet if we pissed them off. I think that's really what we're failing to understand here in this article so far. It admits the end of U.S. hegemony. This is true. Donald Trump is moving towards a multipolar worldview, but then asserts hegemony over the whole of the Western hemisphere, citing the Monroe Doctrine as though it were Holy Writ. What ties this all together? It's a logic of resources, and in the first instance, of fossil fuels. With oil flowing thick and fast from Texas and reserves in Canada and Venezuela, the U.S. can exit the Persian Gulf. It could even, in principle, let's not predict that it will happen in practice, leave Israel to its own devices. Russian gas, more precisely the lack of it, has sealed the fate of Europe. Germany is deindustrializing while Britain and France, their empires long gone, are in deep decline. Sanctions having failed, Russia's eventual victory in Ukraine is now assured. Hence, it is necessary to accommodate Russia and to break America's long-standing ties to Russophobic European elites. With China, the resource issue is rare earths and especially gallium, a byproduct of refining bauxite into alumina. China controls rare earths through a near monopoly on refining, which could erode with determined effort over time. Gallium is different. U.S. aluminum capacity peaked in 1980, and the Chinese advantage in the underlying refining is now 90 million metric tons to 1. The U.S. cannot source gallium in adequate quantities on any timescale, and there's no substitute for it in advanced microchips. The U.S. military cannot now confront China and prevail, right? China would kill us. They have something we need. They will kill us if we try to fight them, so we got to play nice with them, right? That's what's up. Détente is therefore necessary for America as it is desired and accepted by China. The remarkable recent softening of the American line towards China is the direct consequence of this material reality. As strategy, the new order is not ironclad. So far, it has not much affected Pentagon planning and should not be taken too seriously until bases are closed, aircraft carriers decommissioned, and nuclear weapons mothballed, while a new Navy based on regional requirements takes shape. No, don't make me. No, I don't want to. It is also hedged in several unrealistic ways, such as the notion quickly quashed by China that perhaps Japan and Korea might defend the first island chain, that euphemism for Taiwan. Equally unrealistic is the idea that Europe will step up on self-defense with triple or more the current military spending while their economics continue to decline. There is an undisguised notion that the nations of Latin America are not really countries, but dependencies and satrapies, colonies in all but name. I actually have never heard this word before. Is this word new to anybody else in the chat? I've never heard that word before. I like that. That there have been and still are such countries in the regions cannot be denied. New to you too. First time in the chat. Yes, thank you. Yes. But Mexico and Brazil, not to mention Colombia and Venezuela, as well as Nicaragua and Cuba, have other ideas. The brazen Miami mobster tone of this document and its most retrograde feature scarcely removed from the years before the American Civil War, when Cuba and Mexico were seen as new frontiers for Southern slaveholders. As economics, the strategy is a massive contradiction. It seeks reindustrialization while simultaneously protecting the financial system and the global dollar. No, we haven't talked about Nigeria yet. We're going to soon. It seeks technological leadership while cutting taxes, regulation, and the government's long degraded ability to specify what the leadership entails. It wants to build up an invincible full-spectrum military while promoting pro-worker prosperity that is widely shared. This is the syndrome of the child who wants every shiny package under the tree. One may expect a tantrum when reality dawns that one cannot have it all. Still, for all of its defects, as an assault on the previous sacrosanct unipolar Eurocentric world order, the new strategy is an icebreaker. It opens up policy space not seen in 40, 50, or perhaps 60 years, not since Reagan and Gorbachev, Nixon and Mao, or Kennedy and Khrushchev, who each in their own way tried to forestall the final nuclear confrontation. The panicked reaction of the European political leaders and of the U.S. foreign policy and Democratic Party and media elites portends a colossal struggle to keep the old order going. Thomas Friedman's vicious pastiche of cringe and cope is a telling example of what to expect. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. It goes on a little bit more. I don't think we have to get too far into it, but basically the takeaway from this is that we're very resource driven and we want resources, and if we don't have access to them and we can't take them by force, we need to play nice. But if we can take them by force, we will. And this creates a contradiction of ideology, obviously. Capitalism is, a contradiction of ideology very obviously, and that's why it will collapse ultimately. Same thing with liberalism as a concept. So, I think that this is a good understanding before we look into what Donald Trump's up to in Nigeria. So, here we go on Politico. U.S. forces launch Christmas strike on ISIS in Nigeria. And he wrote, "May God bless our military and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists." Absolutely wild. We haven't seen terrorists used this way by a U.S. president since like George W. Bush, and it feels kind of retro, and I'm kind of into it. Like, the terrorists are getting us, So I think this is super fascinating. I took off my glasses for the glare, but I'm going to have to lean really far forward to read. I'm so sorry, I'm blind. American forces launched airstrikes against ISIS in Nigeria on Thursday, and Donald Trump announced this in a post on Truth Social, the administration's latest show of lethal force in the international arena since Trump returned to the White House. A Pentagon official told Politico the agency worked with the Nigerian government to carry out these airstrikes, and on his social media platform, the president said the strike was a consequence for the militant group's killing of Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. So, we already talked about this. We know that, there's conflict going on in Nigeria. Muslims and Christians are both dying. Muslims are actually dying at higher rates. But the conservatives in the United States have tried to brand this as a crisis of Christianity, that we're defending Christians, right? Very, very old school as well. Very appealing, I'm sure, to Donald Trump's base. What we really want to do is get controlled access to natural resources and be able to use Nigeria as a strategic outpost for our military. So he wrote, "I've previously warned these terrorists," with a capital T. I love the capital T, terrorists, too. This is pretty interesting. "That if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight there was. The Department of War," I forgot we called it that. The Department of War. That's so true. This is like a parody of the United States. Like, if you could travel back in time to 1995 and you were like, in 2025, in 30 years, Donald Trump will be our president, and he will have renamed something the Department of War, and he will have made basically his own social media network to talk about how the terrorists were killing the Christians. Like, it's like a parody of the United States. It's absolutely wild. They are acting like it's late antiquity. It's so wild. Oh, Absentia, hi. Yes, we're here on Twitch. There was no immediate word on casualties. Trump has in recent months taken Africa's most populous country, right, to task for what he claims to be the persecution of Christians within its borders. In November, he threatened to withhold all humanitarian aid and even invade Nigeria with U.S. troops, guns a-blazing, I'm guessing that's a quote from him, if its government refused to work harder to tamp down the violence. The president has been far from shy in using American military might to promote his international agenda. Trump has now greenlit military strikes in Iran, Syria, the Caribbean, and Nigeria. Remember how he said he was going to be the anti-war president? Do you guys remember he was like going to be a peace president? He's like, these wars, they're such a waste. He made a big fucking show about it. Meanwhile, military strikes in Iran, Syria, the Caribbean, and Nigeria, among other sites, since re-entering the White House in January. Pretty wild. "May God bless our military and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead capital T terrorists, on which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues." The Nigerian embassy did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the strike. Nigeria has claimed that Christians are not persecuted. The crisis is far more complex than a simple religious framing suggests, according to Taiwo Hassan Adebayo, a researcher at the Institute of Security Studies from Associated Press. So I wanted to give like a Marxist perspective on this, and you guys know sometimes I'll look at like Marxist papers, and I'll even look at Trot papers for history sometimes. I know it's not ideal, but Liberation News had a good thing about this. So we're going to do Liberation News Nigeria on this that I read that I thought was pretty good and gave an overview. And Liberation News is the PSL newspaper. I know some of you guys hate them. I don't hate them. I don't hate any Marxist-Leninist org, so sue me. All right. So we're going to read this. So basically, we're talking about here everything we just read. And we're talking about, too, how Senator Ted Cruz has been involved in this. I think that people don't like the PSL just because they recruit from liberals. So sometimes their language can seem a little soft, but it's a recruiting technique. I don't have a problem with them. And then there's some bogus claims about like SA, but I looked into those and they fall apart if you look at them at all. So I think in general, it's just kind of like like, some people are annoyed with them for having like a soft rhetoric to appeal to liberals, but they're good at recruiting, so obviously it works. And I've been guilty of doing it. I use soft rhetoric all the time on TikTok to try to recruit liberals, and I think it's effective, so I can't judge for that. So yeah, a lot of minute preferences for how Revolutionary Party should operate. Exactly. So I don't, I don't have a problem with them. I don't have a problem with FRSO either. I have a problem with ACP just because they're homophobic, and that's like a big red flag to me. Obviously, I don't. That's the only two that I tell people I don't fuck with are Bobavakian and ACP. I would never tell anybody to join those groups. ACP also like started this weird campaign against me. I'd never mentioned them before, and they like started attacking me on Twitter one day. They were being really fucking strange, being super misogynistic, super homophobic to me on Twitter. Very fucking weird. And then I just trolled them was my response, and then they got all fucked up because I was trolling them better. And so now they're on this thing where they're trying to recruit me to the ACP apparently. I don't really know. I'm not sure what's going on with them. They're very strange. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Child of the Reach sent you a screenshot of Jackson Hinkle using the F slur on Twitter. Yes, exactly. And, like, this is not conspiratorial. You can go on their leadership, their Twitters, and search for the words gay, search for the words LGBT, search for anything. You will see mountains and mountains of homophobic garbage come out of those people. I don't think the PSL is bad. No, I know. I do the Vote Socialist stuff. I work with them on those campaigns because it's their candidates running for 4 out of the 5 positions for Vote Socialist, and they're delightful. They're great. So I don't have a problem at all. Oh yeah, and ACP uses a lot of AI usage, and they want to take over Canada. They're fucking weird. They're national socialists. They're fucking weird. Yeah. So DILF 314. I would say join PSL. I would say do that. Join FRSO or PSL would be great for most people to join either of those orgs. I think. Yeah, I think they're good. Yeah. So, and I say those two because they're the biggest. Most major cities probably have a presence of one of those 2 orgs, and I would join one of those 2 orgs. Hi, Ramona Stay. Yeah. And just, remember a lot of people are anti-org, and I think that's kind of fed work. I think if you're a socialist, you should join an org, even if it's small, even if you're in an area where they don't have a lot of options. I'm not a Trotskyist. I don't like Trotskyism. I would even tell you to join a Trotsky org before not being in an org at all. That's how much I believe in an org. So what age should a person join a communist organization? I would say, when you turn 18, you should do it. Some have youth kind of organization things you can work with that I think is cool too. Even if it's just you and your 2 friends, exactly as Virgo said. If you don't have an org near you, start an org. FRSO, Freedom Road Socialist Organization, is the other one that I would say for most people, PSL or FRSO would be good. Socialist Alternative, I don't know much about, but I've seen them out at a lot of things. Actually, let's research them together really fast. I'm not sure if they're Trotskyist or not. They're Trotskyist. Okay, so they're Trots. So I would say join a Marxist-Leninist org instead, like FRSO, PSL, those are Marxist-Leninist orgs. But if all you have in your area is Socialist Alternative, fuck it, join it. So that's kind of what I think. But yeah, I see Socialist Alternative out at a lot of things. I see them out. So they're doing stuff, at least. They're very active. Ellen, they were founded the year I was born. We're the same age. Yeah, they're SALT. Yeah. Socialist Alternative Occult. Let's take a little digression and read this Reddit post really fast. Hold on. I'm very concerned. Free time is taken up by us, say. Even when traveling, there's never time for self. Comes before. Okay, no, this just sounds like somebody's actually in an org. Okay, no, I don't think they're a cult based on that. I think that's just somebody not understanding what a socialist org is like. Communist Party of Chile has a huge youth league. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so back on subject. Sorry, ADHD, we're bouncing around. Is this Christian nation rhetoric a general conservative Republican viewpoint, which has been used earlier in other Republican presidential times, like Bush and Reagan era as well? Yes. Reagan era is really what popularized it. So basically, Reagan had a lot of backing. Reagan was an actor, and he had a lot of backing from people who were businessmen, who had ties to Washington, who wanted to create a new version of republicanism that would appeal to the masses. And to do that, they co-opted a lot of Christian ideology and really tried to make the Republican Party the party of the Christian right, the Christian conservative. So it started really in a major way with Reagan, and George W. Bush did it a lot. I mean, one of my favorite stories is that one of my friends went to a private Christian school for high school. And when we were in high school, George W. Bush was president. And one of her friends, it was a Catholic school, went to confessional because she had had impure thoughts. She had had a dream that she was married to George W. Bush, but it was okay because Laura Bush had died. And this is, so it was a very Christian, like all the Christians like had crushes on George W. Bush. Like it was very, very fucking weird. So it's been around for a long time. Yeah, there's literal posts on each org titled "Is it a cult?" You're so right. First time chatter with the big username. Yeah, you were correct. So pretty wild. Is this a new thing with regard to discrediting socialists or historical norm and anti-commie behavior? It is a historical norm. It is. They will say anything to discredit communists and socialists, the not joining the org because it's not pure enough, right? That kind of a thing. This is an age-old tactic. Like, they're not actually communists or socialists. They're a secret evil thing. Like, this is very standard. So that's why I'm like, don't pay much attention to those. Join an org. Join an org. And I even, to be fair, there are people who are in the ACP that I will talk to, and I don't mind them, right? It's just their leadership that I'm like, yo, this is fucked. Whatever. I would say just join an org. Yeah. People are trying to instigate infighting, trying to keep people not organized. They really want to keep you not organized. So, somebody calling me a tanking and saying I don't go by they, them pronouns. People they just make stuff up all the time. There's also a news story that I changed my pronouns in the middle of a fight with somebody to win. It was like absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Does ACP support Trump? They called themselves the MAGA communists, and they used to say things kind of in favor of Trump, but they politically don't support Trump. It's like, I think it's their recruiting technique. So where people dislike the PSL for recruiting from liberals, ACP recruits from conservatives, but my argument would be that ACP tail ends conservatives too much to try to appeal to them, and it makes them very regressive, very like not actually communist. Save Eddie. Yeah, we have a joke going on that Eddie is Eddie's a nice guy who's been accidentally duped by the ACP guys. It doesn't make sense. It's not. I could never in good conscience recommend ACP. I do suspect one of my favorite mutuals on TikTok is an ACP now. And that person is very, very smart. So, whatever. But again, I'm not going to dunk on people for joining an org, but I'm just going to tell you, it's not an org I would recommend, if that makes sense, And also, they start shit with me all the time, so I feel like I'm allowed to clap back at them. Yeah. It's just weird. If you talk to enough of them, oh, Cercito's back, hi. MAGA are fascist, why would any org support them? Exactly. It's not. They're fucking weirdos. They're fucking weirdos to me, okay? They're fucking weirdos. But they do, I will say, I think they do appeal to a certain type of person who is kind of like an internet edgelord. They kind of appeal to them. So people like that end up joining that a lot. I would say if you're an internet edgelord type, just join FRSO instead. If you're like, oh, I'm so mad, I'm so angsty, and I hate woke, and whatever, just join FRSO. They're not evil, right? And they're very practical, and I've seen nothing but good things about them. So, yeah, I think you should start looking. Yeah. I think you should. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, you're mad and angsty, but also woke. PSL is probably for you. Yeah. I think that, and there's more orgs than that, obviously. Those are just the two biggest Marxist-Leninist orgs. Christian nationalism is heavily born out of the Confederate South, and there are many in this day and age who are still upset that they lost during the Civil War. I don't think Christian nationalism is necessarily born of the South, because I think we experienced it in the North as well. I think it was a driving force, obviously, for manifest destiny, for all of colonial expansion across the Americas. It was driven by Christian nationalism, quite literally. God promised us this land. It is our nation to take. And so I think that it has existed long before that. But and also Christian nationalism was not explicitly tied to the Republican Party until Reagan in a major way, right? Like, most people were Christians and they were proud of their nation and they had patriotism. But Reagan's political team really made it a core part of their ideology. And also Reagan's team they worked with these groups that were basically caucuses of nationalists from other countries throughout Europe that they had brought over after World War II and set up and established here in the United States. They worked with them to win elections. So they probably also had some nationalism that they were learning from literally World War II era people that had been affected by the Nazis. And those groups actually featured a lot of Nazis. So the one I think of the most is UCCA, but that was Ukraine, but there were other ones too. Yeah. 9/11 did amplify this as well. Yeah. The Haas thing, yeah. Haas says a lot of transphobic stuff. Yeah. They like transvestigate Hitler. I mean, one of the fights I got into them with them, I was like, you're not a serious party because 10% of workers in the United States are gay. And if you were alienating 10% of the working class, what hope do you have for anything? And they could not believe this. They did not know 10% of people in the United States identified as queer in some capacity. It's just like, how do you not know that? It's very, very weird. So, okay. They transvestigated Hitler. It's absolutely wild. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to read the Liberation News article on this. I think it's very good. It's written in very easy to understand language as well, which I think is good. So, we're talking about Nigeria. So, at the start of November, Trump threatened military action against Nigeria. Guns a-blazing is what he said he was going to do. We saw that too. And they say U.S. right-wing campaigns have peddled a conspiracy of genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Senator Ted Cruz has been championing this false claim on behalf of Nigerian Christians and American evangelical leaders. Cruz introduced the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025, designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern, a status that is also placed on China, India, and Russia. Big surprise. Such a designation would allow for the imposition of sanctions on Nigeria. This thing that they're saying, Virgo saying is correct. They came to the conclusion Nazis were angry, closeted gays, and that's why the Holocaust happened. I mean, they're very homophobic. So, that's why I'm like, we don't fuck with that. No. And now that they're trying to aggressively recruit me, I just yell, am gay and with party at them, like in all caps, whenever they comment, am gay and with party. Like, just to be like, leave me alone. Yeah. So Trump's seemingly arbitrary allegations against Nigeria reduce its internal development and crises to a one-dimensional religious conflict. The threat of invasion comes at a moment when the U.S. is gearing up to invade Venezuela under the pretext of destroying drug cartels. Yes. Just like Venezuela, Nigeria is home to vast fossil fuel wealth. Crude oil and natural gas form the backbone of its economy, while the nation also contains over 40 types of minerals, including iron ore, gold, limestone, lithium, and tin. Nigeria serves as an anchor in the region for the U.S. and Western European allies to carry out geostrategic interests. So remember, we talked about natural resources, strategic military base, and that's exactly what they're saying here. It borders the AES, which is the Alliance of Sahel States, and is a source for AFRICOM, the United States Africa Command, to contain influence from China and Russia in its new Cold War. Nigerian people on the ground view Trump's threats as a classic form of imperialist intervention under the guise of protecting Christians from persecution. This pretext masks the underlying interest of the U.S. to secure energy resources and use Africa as a battleground for its new Cold War. It is necessary to understand the multifaceted challenges the Nigerian people face and their demands for sovereign resolutions void of U.S. imperialist expansion. So this first section's about the myth of the Christian genocide. And they say Nigeria is home to one of the world's largest Muslim and Christian populations, roughly divided in half. A majority of Muslims live in the north, and Christians mostly live in the south. And Trump basically wants to cut off aid and use military action to wipe out what he's calling the Islamic terrorists committing horrible atrocities against the Christians. And that is something they're kind of talking about here. For decades, Islamic State splinters such as Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa Province, that's like ISIS, have ravaged the northeast region of the country. The northern region of Nigeria is predominantly Muslim, with northern states being over 90% Muslim. The Hausa and Fulani are the main ethnic groups in this region. Most of the people killed by Boko Haram and ISWAP are Muslims due to this majority demographic makeup. So somebody in the chat earlier said the majority of people being killed in Nigeria are not Christians, they are Muslims. And this is exactly why. Geographically, the area where these groups are operating it's mostly Muslim. It's 90% Muslim. So the victims are mostly Muslim as well. Okay, let's see. Muslims are also the primary victims of violence from the Islamic extremist groups who engage in looting, kidnapping, and cattle rustling by bandit groups in the Northeast. A 2022 data report from Armed Conflict Location and Event Data reveals anti-Christian attacks as part of a wider spike in political violence across the country. So it's like, okay, yes, Christians are getting attacked, but that's because there's a lot of violence across the country. Everybody's kind of getting attacked right now. Worsening insecurity spanning the North and South stem from the expansion of militia groups from the far north and a growing climate crisis of pasture lands pushing forced migration of herders south. That's actually really interesting. I hadn't read about this anywhere else, but how the climate crisis is impacting this. Basically, like, people have to move to where the land is more hospitable to grow things, and that means that a lot of people are heading more south, and that's creating political conflict. The claims of a Christian genocide have been pushed by groups like US-based firm Moran Global Strategies to lobby on behalf of separatists with their own political interests in the governance of Nigeria. So we talk about this all the time too, right? The United States, the West strategy, capital strategy, corporate interest strategy is to divide and conquer. When you have a big country like Nigeria, you know you can't control it all. So you're going to back separatist movements to try to break away and become smaller countries you can control, that you can have access to, right? The firm represents the Biafra Republic government in exile. Nigerian courts recognize this government as the external arm of the indigenous people of Biafra, a group designated as a terrorist organization in 2017, reaffirmed by the Court of Appeals in 2025. So here is really where they talk about the environmental degradation, and that's why I was like, this is a good article, because this is the only place I've seen really talk about this. The central region of Nigeria, referred to as the Middle Belt, hosts a nearly 50-50 split of Christians and Muslims. The Middle Belt is an area naturally rich in biodiversity and is home to several key river systems, including the Niger River, a vital source for agriculture and broader livelihood. The global climate crisis has not made Nigeria immune to its devastating effects, with desertification and land degradation as key features of the growing climate crisis in Nigeria's northern region. The conflict within the Middle Belt, at its root, is a land use struggle between the farmers in the region and herders migrating from the north over dwindling access to land, water, and grazing resources. 90% of Nigeria's pastoralists are primarily from the Muslim Fulani people and are traditionally nomadic. Most farmers are Christians of various ethnicities. Disputes over land use between farmers and herders are dangerously manifesting into violence that takes on ethnic and religious dimensions. Yet it is important to note that organizations such as Crisis Group highlight how Nigerians, quote, are weaving destructive conspiracy theories to explain the conflict, ethnic cleansing, and even genocide. Relatedly, Nigeria's resource wealth spans all the way south with critical oil-rich wetlands. The Niger Delta, a vast low-lying region, covers 9 Nigerian states with a population of over 31 million people, size of California, for those of you wondering what 31 million people is, and more than 40 ethnic groups. Oh, posture check. Thanks. The Niger Delta is highly biodiverse, with mangrove forests, freshwater swamps, and riverine floodplains. It was historically important for fishing and agriculture. Now it is the center of Nigeria's petroleum industry. There it is, accounting for the nation's oil and gas reserves. So the region hosts expansive environmental features and economic significance. Despite that, it is a source of widespread poverty, underdevelopment, and lack of basic infrastructure due to the consistent handover of Nigeria's resources to multinationals such as Shell. The oil giant Shell, alongside other international oil companies, have ravaged the Niger Delta with upwards of 40 million liters of oil spills every year. The pollution kills off food and water resources, and it pushes Nigerians to resort to methods of illegal refining, crude oil theft, and other criminalized activities to survive. Whether it be the catastrophic effects of climate change or the resource exploitation of multinational corporations, the people of Nigeria pointedly look towards the Nigerian government as the driving force behind the various crises facing millions in the country. Now, this is interesting because remember Donald Trump was like, we did this with the consent of the Nigerian government, basically. Yeah, we got the computer set up. Somebody just came. Yes, we did. Yes. And I got a little light, but it reflects in my glasses weird. Sorry. So, what's up with their government, right? Why is the Nigerian government working with the United States? Why is Donald Trump like, yeah, we bombed them with the consent of their government, right? Current President Bola Tinubu took office in 2023 after winning a contested election. And so this is something I want to talk about too. the things about the contested elections, the United States, our main goal of regime change is for it to be chill. So we will just go in and try to fuck with their electoral systems. We'll put our guys in place. We'll back people who are very sympathetic to the U.S. If they lose, we'll be like, it's contested. It's not right. We actually won. And if they win, on the flip side, the people there will usually contest the election. So that's what's kind of happening here. Within the first few months of his presidency, he rushed to deepen IMF policies. And IMF policies are always like, don't take care of your people, fuck over everybody in your country, and just give us all your money, basically. It's pretty gnarly. So he wanted to do more IMF policies by ending fuel subsidies to Africa's largest crude oil producer. So it's just very neoliberal is what they're doing in the IMF. The removal led to a rapid increase in fuel prices, with prices at gas stations tripling overnight. Tinubu imposed an IMF-prescribed measure of free-floating currency, undermining Nigerians' purchasing power and reducing its value to a fraction of the dollar. His economic reforms additionally quadrupled the cost of staple foods like corn and beans, basically. In June of this year, the End Bad Governance movement, coalition of socialists, students against hardships and hunger, and labor activists mobilized against the acute food insecurity and cost of living crisis. Nearly 32 million Nigerians this year alone are suffering from food insecurity under Tinubu. Again, size of California. So imagine everybody in California is starving. The World Bank's Africa Pulse April 2025 report states that Nigeria has the highest number of people living in extreme poverty globally. Not only is Tinubu reshaping Nigeria with IMF World Bank liberalization, in September 2023, he led the charge of threatening to invade Niger after the formation of AES. Through the Western-backed regional bloc, ECOWAS, Tinubu pushed states to invade Niger while instituting sanctions on the country for daring to chart a sovereign path independent of U.S. and French influence. His governance is mired by concessions to the IMF, compliance with the West's desires to combat the AES, and a dire economic hardship for millions of Nigerians. So on November 8th, protests erupted across Nigeria in opposition to Trump's threats to attack their country. In northern Nigeria, the city of Kano witnessed demonstrators with placards and other signs saying, "We condemn Trump's threat to attack Nigeria. There is no Christian genocide in Nigeria, and America wants to control our resources." Movements on the ground wholeheartedly reject any form of U.S. military intervention while simultaneously criticizing Tinubu's government for failing to respond to the growing security and economic crisis they face. To effectively deal with security threats, Nigerians want their government to rectify the problems of mass unemployment, lack of basic infrastructure, and poverty first. Okay, so this is what we've got going on in Nigeria. So basically, just in summary, Donald Trump wants to bomb Nigeria for the same reason that Responsible Statecraft article pointed out his entire foreign policy is structured, right? His entire foreign policy is structured around resources, controlling resources, and playing nice with people who have resources we can't control. So what do you guys think in the chat? Do you have any thoughts about this? Do you have any questions? Does it make sense? What's going on in Nigeria? Like, does everybody understand why Donald Trump is bombing Nigeria? Or are there more questions? Anything like that. Part of this has to also be to make Ibrahim Traore's life more hellish. Yeah. Nigeria is hyper-capitalist. You have to pay for everything, and the cost of living is astonishing. Imagine going to the doctor and having to pay for the gloves and bandages and pay for using equipment like a blood pressure monitor. That's how bad it is. I think, to be fair, that happens in the United States too, but I understand what you're saying. We're also a capitalist hellscape. So, yeah, I think it's pretty telling, right, that we basically want to completely control and dominate Nigeria for, again, the strategic location for military and also for oil. Yes, Nicki Minaj is wrong. Nicki Minaj's takes on foreign policy are shockingly untrustworthy. Very, very fascinating. I think that there's something really interesting that we see with celebrities in general. Like, a lot of celebrities will get a lot of money and then go hyper-conservative. And it's almost like money corrupts people. Obviously, they understand where their economic interests lie. It's with other rich people. And that's pretty obvious. Another thing, though, that I think is interesting is, like, they almost want to be contrarians. They feel the weight of what's expected of them so much. And the pressure to conform, the pressure to say the right thing, to act the right way. And what the Republican Party is able to offer is the freedom to be yourself. The freedom to say things that aren't perfect, the freedom to be flawed. And that's something the Democratic Party does not offer. So I think what's appealing to celebrities about this hard shift towards Republicanism is, one, they're probably being paid by the Republican Party as well to do that. I would not be surprised, right? That's speculation on my end, but I'm sure the Republican Party is paying for them. Two, it gives them freedom. They don't have to watch what they say. They can just say whatever the fuck they want. You know, and then three, right, like they know their economic interests are going to be better protected under a Republican, right? Because they're rich. You're back. Yay. Hi, welcome back. Oh my God, your internet went out. Ugh. I bet it's Spectrum. No, I have Spectrum and I hate my internet. So Nicki Minaj's husband is a sex offender. I didn't know that because I don't keep up with a lot of celebrity stuff. So that's very interesting. Nicki Minaj is endorsed by Turning Point USA, like our favorite North Korean grifter, right? Yeonmi Park. Yeah, pretty wild. And her brother? Whose brother? Nicki Minaj's brother? Or Yeonmi Park's brother? Her brother's also convicted child. Oh, okay, great. Seizing Spectrum first. You're on my list, Spectrum. Your days are numbered. No, but for real, I hate Spectrum. Yeah. So I don't know, this Nigeria thing, it's just more of the same. I do think it's really interesting that Donald Trump tried to claim he was like an anti-war guy, and now we're seeing he's aggressively a war guy. Oh my God, who could have seen this coming? Right, it's pretty fascinating. You know, are internet service providers universally bad? Well, in the United States they are, because they all got together and basically agreed to do price fixing forever ago, and nobody's held them accountable for it. That's why our internet in the United States is so fucking expensive compared to Europeans. Europeans pay like $20 a month for internet or whatever. We pay like $50 to $100, and it's awful service, and it's really outdated service. Wait, oh, your fiance's never seen Yeonmi Park videos? They're wild. Oh my gosh, they're so wild. Yeah, very, very fascinating. It's very interesting. Yeah. You're shocked. I mean, yeah, this person, amazing 9600, odd because it's not a good decision financially. Most of her fan base is queer or allies. A more establishment liberal grift seems smarter. She's doing it for love of the game. Or they're paying her a lot of money. But yes, this is true. And I can tell you this. The most profitable thing you can be in the United States is either a full mask off Nazi, like Nick Fuentes style, right? Or a liberal Democrat. Like a gay rights, like I love NATO, Northrop Grumman at Pride, liberal. And these are very, very profitable places to be, right? So it's true. And I think people don't know that. Like, I think celebrities get so detached from reality that they forget who their base is and they forget what's profitable. Because celebrities should hang out with other celebrities or, you know, people who are like in their little orbit. And they do get really disconnected from reality. Like, my best friend is a celebrity makeup artist, and she deals with these types of people all the time. And she can tell. She talks about when some people have been too cut off from reality and they like don't understand how the world works anymore. Oh, Fork just woke up. Should I bring my computer? Let's make sure Fork can go outside. She just woke up. Fork break. Fork, are you awake? Where are you? Hi, did you just wake up? Do you have to go out? Come on, let's go, buddy. Come on. You're not going to like it. It's cold and rainy. No. Oh, and my partner just got home. Maybe it's time for me to end stream, guys. Everything's happening. All right. So I'm going to jump off stream. Thank you guys for a lovely day. Sorry for the abrupt ending. And we'll be here Monday, not over the weekend. So Monday. Okay. Bye.